are we supposed to tip? Have you noticed that in culture, in shopping, in wherever you go, everybody's asking for a tip nowadays? So who are you supposed to tip? It used to be that I had this kind of settled. I knew that my waiter or waitress got tipped. That was like, okay, I know this is a tipping thing. I know that if you had, and this is confusing now because it used to be the only food you got delivered was pizza, right? And you would tip your driver. And I don't live in a city, but I know it was common to tip like cab drivers and stuff. But then, and I see this in movies, I don't go to fancy hotels, but you would tip, is it like the bellhop? I don't even, how did they get the name? Like, I don't know what that even means.
They hop when you ring the bell.
Do I need one of those bells? I have, at one of our prior churches, when I moved into the office, there was one of those bells that I inherited. I don't even know where it's at right now, but I need to pull it out and see if I have a bellhop in my house. Looking at my wife like, ding, ding, ding. I need a new iced coffee. I'll tip you. But who are we supposed to? Because nowadays, if you go to Starbucks, it pops up on the screen, right? They want a tip, and it's like, you didn't do anything. You took my order, but I had to come up to it, and I have to pick it up and take it where I'm going. It's not like you're providing service like a waiter would. And the coffee's expensive. And I've come to a spot in my life, and maybe you have been there for a while, where I'm comfortable saying no to tipping. Not the places you're supposed to. If you are serving me and you come to my table and you call me sugar, and you know how waitresses are. You call me hun. I'm always gonna tip service where it's been expected, like the classic, this is who you tip, right? But now every place wants a tip. Even like fast food places sometimes, like the drive-through, in some places they'll ask for tips. Like I'm still in my car. You're not providing me any real service. Like you're just handing me something. And so I'm comfortable saying no to tips. I'm comfortable to saying, nope, you can't have more than what is already a high-priced coffee. You don't get another thing from me. And because it's even that way with other, like a lot of retail places like the Round Up. And it's okay if it's like occasionally where you can round up for this charity or something like that. But working at Walmart where I buy stuff every day I'm there, like for my breaks and get a snack and groceries, it's like if I were to round up every single time, it's like I have 3 receipts from just this day. Like I can't say yes to all of this stuff, right? So I'm comfortable saying, culture, you got out of hand with asking for tips. I'm saying no to tips except for the people who've traditionally been the people we tip. Let's just say no to the rest. You got to occasionally stand up to what is wrong. And it's just wrong to ask for tips for everything. I feel like when I work at Walmart, like maybe I should put a tip jar when you open the milk cooler, there can be a tip jar because I put the milk there for you to get. That's no different than the barista. You just set the coffee on the counter and expect me to tip. Oh, I put the milk in the shelf. I need a tip jar. You can say no. Today we're talking about greatest stories. We're talking about these stories that are classic Bible stories that if you grew up in or around church, you probably heard these. And some of these stories have had overlap into just culture at large. And this week we're going to talk about the character of Elijah. And so it's Elijah, and I titled the story, the altar on fire in the valley of death. And it's 1 Kings 18. Your Bible might have a different heading. It might say Elijah confronts the prophets of Baal, or Elijah on Mount Carmel, or if you want to say Mount Caramel, you can do that. It's near Big Rock Candy Mountain, I think. Probably not. So 1 Kings chapter 18. Later on, in the 3rd year of the drought, the Lord said to Elijah, "Go and present yourself to King Ahab. Tell him that I will soon send rain." Now, we'll pause right there. This is around the 9th century BC, in that time period. And we have to understand right off the get-go here that we don't, so there was all these storms that have happened both down in Texas, and it's just been terrible, the amount of tragedy that's happened over the last several days. But in our culture, when something like that happens, who do we blame? It's the weather. We blame the weather, right? Somebody maybe had a different answer. We generally think of the weather as being the weather. Am I wrong in that? In their society, in this culture, their gods that they worshipped were in charge of all that. So they generally blamed the gods and assumed if there was drought or there was rain, that it was all because of the gods they worshipped were either pleased or displeased. And so worship almost entirely was a result of the gods. And maybe I'm just the weird one, but when it rains here, I don't necessarily blame God for it. I just think it's the weather. And I know God is sovereign and he can control that, but I don't think that he is always actively using that to show his displeasure to us, or that he's sending us rain because he's pleased. I think there's weather, and he's set up this whole system and clouds and rain and this whole fine-tuned planet, and it's just the weather, and he's sovereign. But it's not this thing where they immediately would have gone to, we're in a drought, the gods are displeased with us. We're not doing the right things in worship. We're not giving the right sacrifices. So their concept of weather was different than ours. So the Lord said to Elijah, "Go and present yourself to King Ahab. Tell him that I will soon send rain." So Elijah went to appear before Ahab. Meanwhile, the famine had become very severe in Samaria. So Ahab summoned Obadiah, who was in charge of the palace. So Ahab is the king, Elijah is a prophet, Obadiah is in charge of the palace, and then there's other character, Jezebel, who will show up. So Ahab summoned Obadiah, who was in charge of the palace. Obadiah was a devoted follower of the Lord, and it makes mention of that because a lot of the other characters weren't. Once Jezebel had tried to kill all the Lord's prophets. So Jezebel is a villain. And she's not the only villain in this story. The story has got more villains than heroes. But you only need one hero. And Jezebel as a villain, like even today in culture, if somebody is exceedingly wicked, we sometimes refer to her as a Jezebel. And this is the actual Jezebel here in this story. So she tried to kill all the Lord's prophets. Obadiah had hidden 100 of them in 2 caves. He put 50 prophets in each cave and supplied them with food and water. And I can't imagine being hidden in a cave with 50 other prophets, because prophets were all like the anointed of the Lord, and they all tended to be confrontational people, and now they're hidden away. I can't imagine the frustration and the fights that ensued amongst the prophets in the caves. I'm just assuming they all seem to have fairly loud personalities, fairly brash people, fairly confrontational. The prophets are the people that if you're playing Monopoly, they start to lose, they're flipping the table. They're not having it. And they're calling you out for something. You're charging too much rent. Whatever it is in Monopoly. Things happen, right? I'm not above charging my sisters more rent and making deals in Monopoly when I was a kid. You got to win somehow. So, the prophets are hidden in the caves, and so that's kind of the backstory on Obadiah. He's a follower of God. He tried to rescue prophets. Jezebel tried to kill prophets. So Ahab said, verse 5, Ahab said to Obadiah, we must check every spring and valley in the land to see if we can find enough grass to save at least some of my horses and mules. This is how severe the famine has become. So they divided the land between them. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. As Obadiah was walking along, he suddenly saw Elijah coming toward him. Obadiah recognized him at once and bowed low to the ground before him. Is it really you, my lord Elijah? He asked. Yes, it is, Elijah replied. Now go and tell your master Elijah is here. Oh, sir, Obadiah protested, what harm have I done to you that you are sending me to my death at the hands of Ahab? For I swear by the Lord your God that the king has searched every nation and kingdom on earth from end to end to find you. And each time he was told Elijah isn't here. King Ahab forced the king of that nation to swear to the truth of his claim. And now you say, go and tell your master Elijah is here? But as soon as I leave you, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you away to who knows where. And when Ahab comes and cannot find you, he will kill me. Yet I have been a true servant of the Lord all my life. Has no one told you, my Lord, about the time when Jezebel was trying to kill the Lord's prophets? I hid 100 of them in 2 caves and supplied them with food and water. And now you say, go and tell your master Elijah is here, sir. If I do that, Ahab will certainly kill me. But Elijah said, I swear by the Lord Almighty, in whose presence I stand, I will present myself to Ahab this very day. So Obadiah went to tell Ahab that Elijah had come, and Ahab went out to meet Elijah. When Ahab saw him, he exclaimed, is it really you, you troublemaker of Israel? I have made no trouble for Israel, Elijah replied. You and your family are the troublemakers, for you have refused to obey the commands of the Lord and have worshipped the images of Baal instead, worshiping a false god. And, Now summon all Israel to join me at Mount Carmel, along with the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah, who are supported by Jezebel. So Ahab summoned all the people of Israel and the prophets to Mount Carmel. Then Elijah stood in front of them and said, how much longer will you waver, hobbling between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, then follow him. But the people were completely silent. So you got to picture this. These are what is supposed to be the chosen people of God. This is his nation. This is his people who he's given them the promised land, whose fathers are Abraham and Isaac. This is, and Jacob, and they're in this circumstance now where how many prophets of God were summoned to the mountain? What was the math on that? It's just Elijah. And how many of the others? 450 of Baal, 400 of Asherah. Now, scholars are divided. They don't really know what happened to the prophets of Asherah because when we get to the mountain, they're never talked about again. So people think that Jezebel said, no, they're not going. And just the prophets of Baal showed up. We don't know. So you have 850 prophets of false gods who are in the land, who are doing things in the land, who are swaying the hearts of the people. Meanwhile, the other prophets have all been hidden and killed and hunted down. And so, presumably, the people of God are not worshiping God. And we'll see that more evident in the story. And so we make an assumption that when the famine happened, and it's been going on for a few years now, in that culture, when people so often saw the weather as a direct result of whatever God, you know what the prophet or the false god Baal was in charge of? or what his deal was. Like, you know, the gods all have like their thing. Like you have like Aphrodite's is what? Love. That's about the only one I know, I guess. There's all these gods all have their thing. Baal's thing was crops. In a famine, in a drought, what do you need? Rain so that you can live, because without rain, what happens to your crops? They die. Ahab and Obadiah are out looking for enough grass to keep the horses alive. We're not even talking about grain for the people. We're looking at, can the livestock even graze? Is there even a place in the whole country? And so, what we think has happened is the people of God have turned their gaze from the true God to the false god Baal and worshiped him in hopes that he would send rain and provide crops. And Elijah shows up and he invites the people of Israel, who seem to be following Baal, along with the prophets of Baal. And he confronts them and says, who you following? You following God or Baal? And the people have no answer. If circumstances sway your heart, you are in trouble. It appears like circumstances have swayed the hearts of the people. And the circumstance of famine and of drought have swayed their heart to where now they are looking to a false god, and they have given up on the true God. They've given over to the influence. They've decided it's okay to tip at Starbucks. They have given over to culture and given up on following God, the true God. And if circumstances in life can sway your heart, you're in trouble. We sometimes use that phrase like, oh, she or he, they're led by their heart, and we sometimes say that in a positive way when somebody has like this great personality and is adventurous and all this sort of stuff. But the reality is that more often than not, people who are led by their heart, it doesn't go well, right? Now, we often think of like heart as emotion, but emotion is emotion and heart is resolve. And there's overlap there. But if we are led, if we're swayed, if the circumstances in life can draw us away from truth, if the circumstances in life can diminish our resolve, we're in trouble. Right? The people who are in this story, it appears like they were following God when things were going well, and when there became a famine and the circumstances got rough, their heart, their resolve, their emotions were all swayed. And now they are in trouble. And it's the same for us. I don't know if you know this, but in life, things will not go your way. In life, circumstances will go sour. Circumstances will not be what you want. And you have to have a resolve. You have to have a heart that is settled and say, you know what? Circumstances will come and go. I'm putting my trust in God. And whether there is famine or flood, I'm following Jesus. And the circumstances can be what they may, I'm following Jesus. And you will be tested in that. You will have the worst sets of circumstances converge on you to try to sway your heart, to try to sway your attitude, to try to diminish your resolve. My wife and I are trying to sell a house. And it's on the market. If you want to buy a house, I've got a house for you to buy. And we had an offer the first day it listed, and the buyer backed out after 3 weeks or whatever. And that's a tough set of circumstances, and now you got to start the process over. And in the meantime, we've had a ton of rain, which means we've had some water in the basement over there. Not the circumstances I want. And so I am having to decide, is this a thing that's going to diminish my resolve? Is this going to cripple my attitude? Or is this going to steal my resolve and say, you know what? Whatever the circumstances are, God is still sovereign. Whatever the circumstances are, I will still see the goodness of God in the land of the living. Whatever the circumstances are, it's an opportunity for my faith to follow Jesus no matter what, and for the world around me to see it. So, when this happened, I'm first hit with the disappointment, right? And then you're hit with the discouragement, like, oh no. And my choice is to give in to that, or to pray through it, or to say, you know what? I preach a lot about circumstances being tough. I'm now in it. Now I have to live it. And that's my choice. I'm going to walk this through and follow Jesus and say, you know what? God is still sovereign. Whatever happens, He's going to be my provider. Maybe things don't go the way I want. It's okay. We'll make it through. God will still be here. He'll still provide. And He's going to grow my faith in the hard circumstances. And the world around me is going to see what it is to have faith in difficult circumstances. And so my prayer is not necessarily that God shifts everything to my advantage, but that the world and my real estate agent sees how I respond to difficult circumstances. That the people around me see how I respond and how a man of God, or if it was in your case, a woman of God, how you respond in difficult circumstances. So the people are in this spot. The drought, famine, and their hearts have been swayed. And now Elijah shows up and begins to confront them. And we immediately see that God will not share your allegiance. He calls them out and says, you have to follow God or not. There is no in between. God will not share your allegiance. You can't follow Him in good times and then follow Baal in bad times. You got to choose. You can't hobble along between two ideas, between two worldviews, between two people you're going to worship. He says, you got to choose. And God will not share your heart. He simply won't. He wants all of you every day. And he's not, you might teach your kids that it's good to share, and that's probably a good thing, but when it comes to who you worship, it is not good to share. And God demands that you worship Him only. He will not share your allegiance, and Elijah comes to tell the people that. Verse 22, then Elijah said to them, I am the only prophet of the Lord who is left. But Baal has 450 prophets. Now bring 2 bulls, the prophets of Baal may choose whichever one they wish, and cut it into pieces and lay it on the wood of their altar, but without setting fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood of the altar, but not set fire to it. Then call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by setting fire to the wood is the true God. And all the people agreed. Then Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, you go first, for there are many of you. Choose one of the bulls and prepare it and call on the name of your God, but do not set fire to the wood. So they prepared one of the bulls and placed it on the altar. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning until noontime, shouting, O Baal, answer us. But there was no reply of any kind. Then they danced, hobbled about around the altar they had made. Around noontime, Elijah began mocking them. You'll have to shout louder, he scoffed, for surely he is a god. Perhaps he is daydreaming or relieving himself. He is trolling them. Or maybe he is away on a trip, or is asleep and needs to be wakened. So they shouted louder, following their normal custom. They cut themselves with knives and swords until the blood gushed out. They raved all afternoon until the time of the evening sacrifice. But still there was no sound, no reply, no response. The prophets of Baal are serving a God who is false. Baal is a false god. So they're praying to a dead end. They're praying to a God who will not respond. Have you ever followed a dead end? Or got lost somewhere driving and you ended up at a dead end? I remember a time when I was a teenager and off adventuring with some other teenagers, and we had one of my friends, we had his truck and his trailer and some four-wheelers on the trailer, and we started driving down. In Minnesota, there's a lot of these, we just call them logging roads. Some of them are maybe state forest roads, but they're usually not maintained, but they were cut and served a purpose for a while, and now they're just there, and I don't know if we're supposed to be driving on them, but we were. But we didn't have enough four-wheelers for all of us, and I don't know how, I drew the shortest straw or something, so I'm driving the truck, and at some point they're like, hey, we're going to get out and get the four-wheelers off the trailer, and we're going to go do stuff on four-wheelers in the forest. It's what teenagers do, I guess. And I got stuck with the truck. And we drive down this old logging road for a bit, and I get to a dead end, which is probably not uncommon for these roads. The problem is that I'm in a truck and a trailer in a forest in a road that has a dead end. And now, at the dead end, I have to get the truck and the trailer out of the forest, off that road. And there wasn't a roundabout. There was fortunately I'm in the forest by myself. They're off on the four-wheeler, so nobody could see me doing this, but it's one of the most frustrating little turn, back up, because it's a forest. It's not designed for trucks and trailers at the dead end. And it took me quite some time to get out of this and get the truck turned around, because there's trees everywhere. But I was able to do it. That's what dead ends usually, we hit those and it takes time and it's frustrating and it's hard. The prophets of Baal, they're at this dead end. They dance, they cut themselves, they yell louder, and nothing, because Baal is a false god. Living is hard. Bring prayers, bring weapons. Elijah is about to go and pray to his God. He's about to demonstrate what it is to follow the true God. In life, you're going to hit some dead ends occasionally. In life, you're going to hit some hard circumstances. Living is hard. I don't know if when you're a kid you just assume that when you become an adult it's great because you can choose your own bedtime and you can snack on whatever you want whenever you want. But then when you become an adult you realize that life is full of consequences. And if you stay up too late then you're super tired at work. If you eat too much junk food, the doctor lectures you. Life is hard. And you need to bring prayers. You need to bring weapons. Now, I don't mean like gun weapons. What do we call the Bible? Sword of Spirit? What's a sword? Is that a weapon? If you want to succeed in your faith, if you want to overcome the circumstances that'll come your way, you better be praying. You better know the truth of Scripture. and you better figure out how to apply that. You better figure out how to incorporate the truth and the Spirit into everyday living. You will need it. The people who I see who haven't figured that out, they're usually swayed by their circumstances, and their attitudes are all up and down and all over the place based on the day. And oftentimes their faith fizzles out, and they don't maintain, they don't make it. The people who are witnessing this confrontation, the people who are watching the prophets of Baal do their dancing and do their stuff, I think are starting to realize we've been following a false god. We gave up following the true God. We gave up praying to the true God, and we've been praying to a false god. We gave up the truth of God's commands for something false. And there is a lot of false in our culture today. There's a lot of things that are presented as true that are not true. There is just a lot of false. It's no coincidence that Jesus calls himself the truth. Then Elijah called to the people, "Come over here." They all crowded around him as he repaired the altar of the Lord that had been torn down. He took 12 stones, one to represent each of the tribes of Israel, and he used the stones to rebuild the altar in the name of the Lord. Then he dug a trench around the altar large enough to hold about 3 gallons. He piled wood on the altar, cut the bull into pieces, and laid the pieces on the wood. Then he said, "Fill 4 large jars with water and pour the water over the offering and the wood." After they had done this, he said, "Do the same thing again." And when they had finished, he said, "Now do it a 3rd time." So they did as he said. And the water ran around the altar and even filled the trench. At the usual time for offering the evening sacrifice, Elijah the prophet walked up to the altar and prayed, "O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, prove today that you are God in Israel and that I am your servant. Prove that I have done all this at your command. O Lord, answer me so that these people will know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you have brought them back to yourself." Immediately, the fire of the Lord flashed down from heaven and burned up the young bull, the wood, the stones, and the dust. It even licked up the water in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell face down on the ground and cried out, "The Lord, He is God. Yes, the Lord is God." We need Jesus to confront us. There's times in life we need Jesus to slap us upside the head, right? There's times we need him to wake us up. I think there's times when he allows circumstances that are hard because he's trying to get our attention. We need Jesus to confront us. We need Jesus to shake us, to wake us up, to say, you know what? You've been getting off track. You've been letting the false creep into your life, and it's time to get back to the truth. And this is what Elijah does. And the people of Israel see it, they witness it, and Jesus, he's confronted them. God has confronted them with his truth. Then Elijah commanded, verse 40, then Elijah commanded, "Seize all the prophets of Baal, don't let a single one escape." So the people seized them all, and Elijah took them down to the Kishon Valley and killed them there. This is where the story takes a decidedly unkid-friendly turn. And the 450 prophets of Baal are captured, taken to the valley, and they are all killed. And I've never killed anyone. You're probably relieved to know that. I've never killed anyone. I can't imagine what it's like I've never even been witness to somebody being killed. I've been around death, but not killing. And to see that, to be a part of that, had to have been sobering. When the fire falls, kill what is false. Cling to the truth. There's a lesson in that. It doesn't mean we're going to go kill our enemies or we're going to kill false prophets. But the principle is that Jesus comes to us, and he calls himself the truth, and he brings truth. And his word brings truth to our life. And he confronts us. And when that happens, when he shows up, when the Spirit convicts, when those things happen, he is calling on us to not just believe, but to also kill what is false. To rid our lives of what is false. To take whatever is false, whatever is hindering us, whatever is actively pulling us away from him and his truth, and lay it to rest, to get rid of it, to kill it, to eliminate it from our lives. And that might take different forms. You might have to turn off certain shows. You might have to end some relationships. I don't know what it's going to be like in your life. But I do know that there are things in our life that are just bringing us more and more false. And Jesus comes to us with himself, the truth, and expects us to kill the false and follow the truth. Then Elijah said to Ahab, "Go get something to eat and drink, for I hear a mighty rainstorm coming." And if you keep reading, you'll see that the rain comes, and God ends the drought and the famine. And in that day, the people choose to follow God, but only after they are confronted, only after they witness God show up. And he will show up. He has shown up in my life, not on Mount Carmel, not in the same fashion. I've not seen fire from heaven burn up an altar. But he has shown up. He's shown up. He's spoken to me. He has reassured me at times. He has given me direction or instruction at times. He has convicted me at times. He has revealed truth to me at times. And what I've come to realize is that he wants all of me, all of the time, every day. See, in sports, we have this thing where and as a fan of Minnesota sports, we're always looking for a championship that never seems to come. But we want a championship. We want the Vikings to win the Super Bowl, the Twins to win the World Series again, the Wild to get past the first round of the playoffs, the Timberwolves to make the finals. Like, we want a championship. But Jesus is different. Yes, he wants the championship, but he wants more. Jesus wants more than a single championship. He wants a dynasty. See, there are some cities that they're so used to winning a championship, it's no big deal. And they want a dynasty. They're like, one championship, who cares? We want like 26 World Series. We want to own a decade. We want to be like the Patriots. We're not content with one Super Bowl. We want 7 of them, 6 of them. You know, they want the dynasty. And in our life, Jesus, yes, he wants the championship. He wants that victory on that day. Like in this story, the people turn to him that day and say, yes, he is God. But he wants more than that. He wants them to wake up the next day and say, he is still God and we are still following him. He wants that dynasty where it's day after day, week, month, year, stacked up. Where following him is the pattern of our life, not just an experience on a mountain here and there. And there are people who you probably know who following Jesus is an experience on a mountaintop. But they go to the valley and they don't kill the false. And their heart gets swayed by the circumstances. And then they're not following Jesus for a time until they have another mountaintop experience. And what Jesus wants of your life is for you to yes, meet him on the mountain, but then also go to the valley and kill the false, and then begin to follow him every single day. To begin to follow the truth every single day. And not just a championship, but a dynasty, where it becomes the pattern and pursuit of your life. No matter the circumstances, no matter what culture says, no matter what false thing comes at you, it's a dynasty. Your allegiance is his every day. And it's going to be hard some days. And some days it's going to feel so natural. And the other days you're going to have to fight back the bad attitude. But it is possible to follow him. It is possible for him to be your God every day, not just when the fire comes.